go through now. I will go through SIP 1 to SIP 14 individually. Don't worry if you can't remember what SIP 1 is or what SIP 2 is. We will just go through one by one, and I will give examples. And then you can tell me, or you can put on the WhatsApp group saying what are the examples that you have used. It's just for everyone's benefit in terms of what are the examples, because some of them can be a bit challenging in terms of getting things signed off or getting the evidence of it. Okay, so SIP 1 is the easier one. Essentially, is generic skills or as like history taking, management of patient, involving patient management, essentially. Okay, so what I've done is the next table you will see. I'll leave it on the screen for a little bit longer. So what are the evidence that you can use as for your assessment, or for that you can link to your SIP or the key skills that you have done for the year according to your level of training. So I kind of split it to ST1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the intermediate, and then S6 to 7. So as you can see, ST1, 2 is more of the observational, very basic things, and observation essentially, okay? And there are a lot of e-learnings more appropriate to your level. And the ST3 to 5, you expect to be more involved in complex cases, but you will ask, you'll be seeking for help. And obviously ST6 to 7, you'll be more on the leading the case itself in the more complex cases. And you will notice that it's a lot of leadership, human factors, that those type of things that's coming in. So you'll be leading the case instead of observing the case instead. So that's the wide range of the examples that I have. But obviously, by all means, if you have any other examples that you want to use, please go ahead. And a lot of times, why I advise send out the assessment, like mini CACs or CBD, describe the case as much as you can, because some of the assessment you can link to more than one SIP. But you have to mention in your assessment so they can use it to be linked to another SIP, for example. Okay. I hope there's no question at the moment, but by all means, if you do, you can raise it immediately in the WhatsApp group, or you can just ask directly. Okay. Right. SIP 2, essentially understanding how NHS works, again, and how, especially in the digital world, legal professional, all those requirements and the clinical governance, essentially. Okay, so I'm just going to give you examples as well. Okay, just take your time, have a quick look. Okay. So as you can see, ST1, 2, in terms of clinical governance, a lot of times you just, or understanding how NHS works, a lot of times you're just observing, learning it online, or participating in some of the meetings, okay? It's very rare that you're actually involved in the actual action of it as an SHO, but as you start progressing in your career as an ST3 to 5, we expect you to start being involved in it, okay? So even though you're not leading it, okay? But ST6, 7, I expect a lot more. So, so we will be expecting you to do a little bit more, attending the risk meeting. You may be even be chairing the risk investigations as such. Okay, take your time, have a look. Okay, and as I say, we will send this out even either as a video or as just a PowerPoint presentation for you guys. Okay, so don't worry if you can't jot down everything. Okay, we will send it out later. SIP 3 is. It's easily understandable. It's leadership. So what are the lead? Some SHOs are worried. What leadership have I got as a SHO, especially ST1, 2 level? You do. Okay. You can use the very, very simple things. Okay. Especially in this one, I want to particularly mention NOTS assessment. It's something new. We don't do it very often, but it's a very good example they can use for as evidence. Okay. Obviously, your TO1 and TO2 will show it as well. But as a formal assessment of your leadership, this is a good one, okay? For SHO, you can use it as well, but for something much simpler, NOTS assessment observed by your registrar or your consultant as you're doing a posting the ward round, for example, okay? And obviously, in NOTS assessment for ST6, 7 will be a lot more in terms of how you run the antenatal clinic, how you run labor ward, or how you run the gynae theatre, for example. So there are different levels of things. And obviously, depending on what level you are, you need to get the appropriate people to do your assessment, okay? ST1 to get your ST6, 7 to do, or your consultant to do, okay? Don't get ST3 to do your NOTS assessment probably not quite the right level. So get the appropriate people to do your assessment as such. Okay. And obviously there are a lot of other training courses, SC671 leadership management course. But as a more junior person, you can always do e-learning. There's not a problem at all as part of your progression, progression in terms of the, of your level in terms of leadership. Okay. Those are the examples. Quality improvement. We are kind of moving away from audit. It's not that something you can't do. We will still recommending you doing it, but we are moving towards more looking into quality improvement projects as such. Okay. So as the ST12, you learn how it's being done. You still need to know what audit means. So you need to know how audit is being conducted, attend audit meeting. You need to present in the audit meeting. But essentially you are joining an audit project or a QI project, but someone else leading it. So you participate as a team. SC3 to 5, exactly the same, but you might be able to lead the QI project yourself, but maybe someone else give you the idea. SC6, I would expect you probably more on the QI project. You may come up with the idea, design the whole thing, and you're leading the project yourself, but with support from a consultant, obviously. Okay, and it can be very difficult in terms of involving patient groups in projects, because we are ideally all projects have the public involvement, but it can be difficult, but something that you can use. Okay, and also the other thing that I would suggest in terms of joining, essentially as a more senior trainee, essentially is a network or guideline development is part of your training. You need to know how guideline is being written up, how do we come about, how does guideline get approved. All those is a skill to learn, and it can be quite difficult. For SC3 to 5, it's quite useful to be involved in guideline review. Not necessarily writing a complete new guideline, but reviewing a guideline is something to be useful to learn. Okay. Human factors and the evidence. Okay, there are a lot of courses, especially for the senior trainees. Okay, but this is where your NOTS assessment will help as well, or in the mini packs. As you progress in your career, the cases gets more complicated, and we expect you to more involve adverse outcomes, especially all those cases, because it's quite challenging to be reviewing the whole case in terms of how it happens and how does human factors involving it. So courses like PROMS, human factors course, MOET, those are the courses that is helpful in getting you started, and then you can just progress onto it as you go. But NOTS assessment is the main one that I identify in terms of using it as a evidence. Your TO2, you're doing it every year anyway, so might as well use it, but try to do some NOTS throughout the year. Don't need that many, but it's one of those assessment that you can show your leadership and human factors or teamwork, all those. So describe the case fully, and you can use one note to be linked to leadership or teamwork to human factors. It can be used for multiple things, but try not to use the one and only to link to everything. So you need more than one note for all these things. Developing self and others, essentially being helpful. Simple as that, in terms of helping others and also helping yourself to develop your learning and providing support. Okay, so you can say that how, for example, you as a registrar, you can provide support to your juniors who has participated in who has involved in an adverse outcome in an obstetric case, showing support. Those are the things you can reflect upon it and write it up, and a reflection can be as evidence of for your key skills or SIPs. Okay, same again, there are courses that you can go for, but your tier 1 and tier 2 will be useful in this sense as well, because a lot of the times you're providing support, you don't really get an assessment done as such. You can do a reflection, which is quite common, or you can ask a consultant to observe you, debrief your junior trainees. As a senior trainee, you can ask a consultant to observe you doing a debrief or giving feedbacks. Those are the things that you can use. And as a SHO, for example, you can observe someone giving a feedbacks in terms of in the SIPs. Innovation and research. This can be challenging to some of us, especially you're so involved in your clinical work, and it can be difficult in terms of being involved in research, but doesn't mean that you can't. Okay, simple things. Journal club, review an article. Okay, don't need to do very frequent. but you need to start doing something, okay? SHO, you can start by participating in reviewing journals, okay, reviewing guidelines, okay, those are very useful. In RCOG e-learning, there are a couple of e-learning that you can use that as your evidence, or at least learning how to do it. NIHR has, if you want to do a GCP certification, you can Google NIHR GCP certification. It's free. You can sign up to it, and it tells you everything that you need to know about GCP, good clinical practice, in terms of research point of view, ethics, approval, and all those, okay, and how you get consent. So something that's important in terms of research. Yes, you can lead the journal club. Obviously participate in research projects. I'm sure in all units there are research projects. You just need to find out what they are and volunteer your service, essentially, okay? But it's very important you get your GCP certification before you participate, especially in patient recruitment and consent, because without that, you can't really be part of the research team. So I would advise you, if you want to be much more involved in research in your department, get your GCP certificate first, okay? There is online one. There is also face-to-face GCP training. The face-to-face GCP training, it's a lot longer. The online one is a lot shorter, but probably obviously there are limitations in terms of the GCP certification. Okay. Yes, I do not expect anyone to purposely go out to do a PhD or MD just to get this sign off, but you can read up in terms of how a research is being conducted, because it's not just about recruitment of the patient and doing the research, because there's a lot of built up work to a research project. How do they get ethical approval? Research and development department of the hospital. All this needs to be done, okay? And there are smaller research projects that some of you can be involved, and then you can attend conferences, and you can publish some of them, okay? Those are obviously clear evidence, but for those who struggle to be involved or provide evidence, those are the things that you can do as a mini CACs or CBD in terms of your involvement in research or guidelines, essentially, okay? As an educator yourself, okay, so you teach, you involve in terms of teaching, you supervising your juniors, appraisers, giving feedback and things like that. All those are involved. We are talking from medical students to midwives to nurses, pretty much teaching anyone, including the public. Again, not just within the medical profession. If you really want to, when the coronavirus is all gone, you can be involved in organizing a group, giving a teaching into secondary school students, for example. Those can be done as well, because that's part of the teaching of the public. Those who want to have a little bit more training, more particular training, you can go for mentoring, teaching, a workshop, and training the trainers course. So see what you want to do, especially senior training. You do look into what ATSM you're doing. Some of the courses will be funded as part of your ATSM. Some of them might not be. Okay, so be careful in terms of what you're applying, and you be careful in terms of funding point of view. Okay, but talk to your education supervisor, and if you are not sure whether it will be funded, talk to your ATPT to see whether the courses are funded. Okay, because some of these courses may not be funded. Okay. Yeah, these are mainly teaching. I'm sure all of you are involved in it. So in terms of assessments, you can do it as mini CACs or notes. Someone observing you giving teaching. And what our department in Southend has been doing essentially is getting the junior trainees, especially SHO, in running teaching sessions for midwives. For example, we have recently have 2 SHOs, senior SHOs, running contraceptive evening, 3-hour teaching session for the midwife and nursing staff group for the department. So well done. They done very well, but that's something that they can use as teaching evidence. Okay. Now, SIP 9, 10, 11, 12 are the clinical SIPs. Actually, most of you will be comfortable in understanding what this means, okay? Because these are the clinical bits. It's very similar to what you have previously, okay? In terms of emergency gynae or non-emergency gynae. So gynae and so there's gynae, emergency gynae, non-emergency gynae, emergency obstetrics, and